You're on the mic. And on today's episode, I'm continuing looking back on some of the classic cartoon animation studios here in the States. Today, we're going to be looking at DePatie-Freleng Enterprises. So, without no further ado, let's get going here. For those of you who don't know, DePatie-Freleng Enterprises, also known as DFE, their main claim to fame is doing a lot of the Pink Panther cartoons. So, without no further ado, as I said, let's get going here. DePatie-Freleng Enterprises Incorporated, also known as Mersch Jeffrey DePatie-Freleng Productions, when involved with Mersch Brothers and Jeffrey Productions and DFE Films, was an American animation production company that was active from 1963 to 1981, based in Burbank. DFE produced animation for film and television. Notable among those are the opening titles for the Pink Panther, the lightsaber effects in the original Star Wars, and the Dr. Seuss television specials. So let's look at the origins of DFE now. DFE was founded by two former Hanna-Barbera and Warner Brothers cartoons employees, director-composer producer Fritz Freleng, which I'm sure many of you had seen on a number of Warner Brothers cartoons, and a number of Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies cartoons, and executive David H. DePatie. After Warner Brothers closed its animation studios in 1963, the original animation studios they're talking about there. Although Freleng and DePatie were no longer working for Warner Brothers, a generous gesture from a Warner executive allowed Freleng and DePatie to lease the former Warner Cartoon Studio on California Street in Burbank, complete with equipment and supplies for a few dollars each year. Although DFE's initial business was commercial industrial films, several lucky breaks put the new studio into the theatrical cartoon business. Basically, for those of you who don't know what that means, theatrical cartoons are basically those cartoon shorts that they would use at the beginning of films kind of as a icebreaker, And many studios did that. Warner Brothers, MGM, number of studios used those type of shorts. Director Blake Edwards contacted DFE contacted DFE and asked them to design a Panther character for Edwards' new film, The Pink Panther. Pleased with the design for the character, Edwards contracted with DFE to produce the animated titles for the film. Upon the film's release, the titles garnered a tremendous amount of attention, so much that a large amount of the picture's gross is believed to have been generated by the success of DFE's title sequence. So basically, the majority of the money they made off the film came from the title sequence, is what they're basically saying. DFE soon agreed to a contract with United Artists to produce a series of cartoon shorts featuring the Pink Panther, which would include over 100 shorts for both theatrical release and television through 1980. Also in 1964, Freleng and DePatie's old employer, Warner Brothers, contracted with DFE to produce new Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies cartoons for television. So United Artists basically contracted them to do like a lot of the Pink Panther show cartoons and a lot of the cartoons and that would accompany that. And then they were also getting work from their old bosses at Warner Brothers to do newer like Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies cartoons. Um, DePatie and Freleng found themselves overflowing with work. Many of the animators who had worked at Warner Brothers in the 1950s and 1960s returned to the old Warner cartoon studio to work for DFE. The first entry in the Pink Panther series, The Pink Fink, was directed by Freleng and won the studio its only Academy Award in 1964. In 1967, DFE would receive another Academy Award nomination for The Pink Blueprint. Some of you might remember that one. A blueprint that was actually drawn in pink, but anyways, The Pink Panther and other television series. The Pink Panther theatrical series of cartoons became the basis of a Saturday morning television series, The Pink Panther Show, which came out in the late 70s, which also included theatrical cartoons of the Inspector and eventually the Ant and the Aardvark, Roland and Ratfink, and the Texas Toads, aka Tijuana Toads. I think the Dogfather and Crazy Legs Green were also part of that series. Like most animated television cartoons at the time, the Pink Panther contained a laugh track with narration. The cartoons were edited and in some cases redubbed to meet television standards and practices for content. Basically, they had to redub them in certain cases to kind of make sure they were kid friendly, I think is what they were basically saying there. The Pink Panther show had several incarnations during the 1970s. The show was very popular on NBC's Saturday morning lineup, starting as a half-hour program and expanding a few years later to 90 minutes each week. The studio provided the animated sequences for the 1969-1970 television series My World and Welcome to It, based on the drawings of James Thurber. DFE was one of the subcontractors for the 1964 to 1967 Warner Brothers cartoons, along with Format Productions. The Looney Tunes Merry Melodies shorts made by the studio can be easily identified by the modernized abstract Warner Brothers opening and closing sequences. Although the abstract WB opening and closing sequences were first used in three cartoons made by Warner Brothers cartoons, however, most of the 1964 to 1967 DePatie-Freleng Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies were panned by fans and critics alike. DFE did not continue doing Warner cartoon work until the late 1970s, early 1980s with the TV specials Bugs Bunny's Easter Special, Bugs Bunny's Looney Christmas Tale. Let's see. Bugs Bunny's Easter Special in 1977, Bugs Bunny's Looney Christmas Tales in 79, and Daffy Duck's Easter Egg Excitement in 1980. DFE also created Return to the Planet of the Apes, which ran on NBC from 1975 to 1976, and The Oddball Couple, which ran on Saturday mornings on ABC from 75 to 77. One of the studio's television specials, The Bear Who Slept Through Christmas, 1973, with Tommy Smothers voicing a little bear who goes out to find Christmas in the human world, while his fellow bears head for hibernation. DFE was also responsible for a number of Dr. Seuss specials, including The Cat in the Hat and different incarnations of the Grinch. Inflation, the increasing cost of producing theatrical cartoons, um, and the pressures of producing TV series caused the quality of DFE's output to drop in the mid to late 1970s. In 1981, Freleng and DePatie sold DFE Films to Marvel Comics, and Freleng returned to Warner Brothers Animation, which Warner Brothers had reopened the previous year to produce a series of feature films featuring vintage Warner cartoons with new connecting footage. DePatie made the transition to become the head of Marvel Productions as DFE was renamed. Yeah, Marvel Sunbow Productions, which was popular in the 80s. I'll probably be doing that one too at some point. Um, Although Marvel produced many superhero cartoons and animated series based on licensed toy lines, including Hasbro properties, it continued to produce new productions starring the Pink Panther, a special for television, Pink at First Sight, and motion picture titles for Trail of the Pink Panther and Curse of the Pink Panther. Metro Goldwyn Mayer Animation, MGM Animation, a la the Tom and Jerry company, basically, would later make a 1993 revival show of the Pink Panther as a joint venture between MGM, Merch Jeffrey, DePatie-Freleng, and United Artists, a decade after DFE's merger with Marvel and Merch's UA merger into MGM. In 1993, Marvel Productions was renamed New World Animation and was completely absorbed in 1996 after News Corporation purchased New World Entertainment, ending the life of the studio that once was DFE. Marvel would eventually continue to produce animated animated shows in partnership with Saban Entertainment, which had recently acquired 50% stake in Fox Kids. In 2001, Fox Family Worldwide, which included Saban Entertainment, were sold to Walt Disney. And that pretty much where we're going to leave it there because, as I said, that was pretty much the end of DFE. By that point, Marvel had moved forward on its own. So, um, with that, with now that I've gone through, of course, the DePatie-Freleng Enterprises, now let's move on to the next segment in this episode, which is This Day in Each History. Today being May 12th, 2020. Let's see what's happened on this day in history. On this date, back in 2009, um, manga artist Mitsuru Adachi started working on the Japanese manga series Q&A on this date in 2009. So Mitsuru Adachi would begin work on the Q&A manga on this date in 2009. And on this date in 2010, Marvel Comics would release on the newsstands Astonishing X-Men Xenogenesis #1, the debut of a mini-series that they were doing at the time. On this date in 2010, Marvel would release Astonishing X-Men Xenogenesis #1. So with all that being said now, um, guys can check the link below if you want to contact me directly. My Discord is down there. You can direct message me on Discord. Join the Discord if you'd like. Um, also, I'm still promoting a bunch of different dub companies. It's a good time right now to get caught up as much as you can on older animes. Check out some other companies. Funimation is not the only game in town after all. There are other companies out there that have dubbed some great works as well. Um, Also, I'm still promoting GoFundMe's. As always, guys, never feel like you have to donate. If it's on your heart to do so, and if you have the means to do so, and on your heart to do so, please consider donating. If you've already donated, please consider donating again. And if you cannot donate, you can still help out the cause by sharing the link. Your sharing is caring. You never know. Maybe somebody in your circle of friends might want to help out the cause. You never know. It doesn't hurt to ask. Also, if you like this content, please consider liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. I'd look forward to the conversation with you guys as long as it's civil and respectful. And also, don't forget, this Friday is the debut of the next premiere of Voices Big and Small, which will be this week. I will be talking about Houston-based voice actress Hilary Haig. So I hope you guys will come out and check that out. She was in a lot of good works for ADV and Sentai. And with that, guys, I hope to see you at the premiere on Friday. I will definitely see you tomorrow. Bye.